All right. Welcome back here. Season 4, episode 13. We got Scott. He was with us in our first season. It's been 4 years since we last talked, and I wanted to kind of bring him back on to kind of on because I know last time you said, Scott, that you was kind of struggling with finding a job, and you almost crashed your car, and it's been a lot of it was really rough back then 4 years ago. So how has life changed since then?
Things have been a whirlwind since then. I managed to get myself a job. Been at that job now for it'll be 4 years in October. So consistent. Um, the pay isn't great, but it's consistent that I'm getting 25, 30 hours a week. So I'm sustaining myself, being able to take care of myself. That's the key.
Yeah, I know how life can be really people like life can be really challenging at times, and sometimes you don't always know where to go to get help. Because you was mentioning last time like it wasn't a lot of resources for men. I have a good memory.
Yep.
And you was mentioning last time it wasn't a lot of resources for men. So do you think that has changed since then, or is it still kind of
Well,
a
I
lot?
think it's still kind of limited for men, but the website that I've created, a path to hope.info, that website I started because I was somebody that had absolutely no idea where to begin to go look for resources. And so this enables anybody that needs help to go to this website and find either like a food pantry, a domestic abuse shelter, mental health assistance. Um, if you need to go to an AA or an NA meeting, um, I've tried to account for all those different aspects of resources and availability in the state of Wisconsin.
Okay. Yeah, and that's good because a lot of men don't have resources to kind of go to, help with their their daily needs. Like, if they're in a financial bind, sometimes people like the resources are like they're not going to give you cash in your hands, if you're struggling. Like
Right.
the most they would give you is landlord or something like that. Um, but and I noticed last time I'm just trying to make sure that our audience knows what's going on and the life update and stuff like that. But the last time you said you was you had like some has that kind of subsided, or is that still kind of like does that still come and go?
You broke up there for a second, and you kind of froze. Sorry.
Oh, the last time you were having like suicidal ideations, has that
I, I had
subsided?
I had some pretty bad thoughts, yeah. And I worked it through with one of the pastors that I know, and I used the 988 feature once or twice to text and work through those things. And the woman that I'm with now helped me through a lot of those things. So, I mean, there's been a lot of avenues I went down to help me work with those things.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of life updates, I had got two new jobs, and I'm doing a lot better financially where I want to be at, but it probably was a lot better than 4 years ago when I first started, the talk show. So I'm in a better space, financially about that. So I just wanted to kind of put my 2 cents in there too, because I know
Yeah.
a lot of men feel like they're stuck in life and they're always going to be at the same level that they're always going to be. Kind of give them encouragement.
Well, the one of the biggest things that I face right now still is I'm paying for child support. And so basically, even though I might get 60 hours at my job every 2 weeks, I'm bringing home, roughly a 2 week, no, only a 1 week salary basically, because half of it's going to child support. So I've got to still budget my money as best I can. But I mean, with additional resources, I was able to get on to the food assistance program through the state of Wisconsin, and was able to get some state insurance. So I can finally have some health care, and I could be able to, help me with the food and everything else in the house. So, I mean, even though I'm working, I'm still getting additional resources from the state, which is a great benefit.
Yeah, it's always a blessing to get more help, because a lot of men, they feel like they have to do it all alone. And I'm just here to let men know that it's a lot of resources in this world. I share and it was a shocker to everybody, but I always knew that there were signs that he was depressed. I could tell, you always have that one friend group, that one person in your friend group that can tell from the rest of the people what's really. And I could tell that he was, suicidal. But ideations, what makes people, do people really want to kill themselves, or do they just want to get out of the situation that they're in?
I think they just want to try to get out of the situation because they're so tired of being beaten down by society, or just having low self-esteem or whatever. They want to just find a way out to not have to deal with it anymore.
Yeah, because I remember a couple of years ago when I was in my early 20s, about 10 years ago, I wanted to kill myself because I feel like I didn't have, a lot of support system around me. And, similar to you, I was going through jobs in and out. It wasn't that I was, not qualified for some of the jobs. It was just, it just felt like it was just not the right type of jobs for me. And I just kept struggling and trying to figure out, where am I going to fit in at? Like, what's a certain, good spot for me to be in what industry should I be in? Should I be in the IT industry? Should I be in the education industry? And I kind of like flopped back and forth between both of them. But now I'm in the education industry, and it's a little bit more harder and challenging. They give us hope in life that, if people that have guidance in life like me, like I can assist them and help them to be better adults when they grow up, and be better citizens to the world, just giving some life advice to them. So I always like mentoring people without even them knowing. Giving them, correcting their behavior, telling him or her for that. 2 years or so that I've been working in education, and I really enjoy just being able to correct some of the people's behavior so I can see them grow up to be better as citizens, because ultimately it does get taxing at times, but I think it's really good to see, the fruits of your labor when you install the knowledge to them, and just a little bit, they change somewhat. And I like that. And then the last time you were here, what is some piece of advice that maybe you wanted to, give to men that that might have had a different perception about you versus now? Like, because we know you was, not doing good mentally and financially, and that was scary for some of the men, because some of them reached out to me and they was like, we was worried about him after he said that. So,
the whole key is to not give up. You might be at what you consider to be a rock bottom, but there's only one way up from that point, and you just have to have enough guts or drive to say, okay, I'm not going to let this take over me. I'm gonna beat this thing and keep working at it. I mean, that's the woman I'm with right now. She always asks me for my help, and I'm like, you know what? If you're not in the room, I got to figure out how to do it on my own. And so my way might not be the most orthodox way of getting something done, but I'll figure it out one way or the other. And you just need to have that drive to figure it out. So,
Yeah, because I remember when I was younger, I don't know, consistent about just wanting to go to college or just wanting to succeed in life. Because I had a learning disability when I was younger, and I didn't really, fit well into the crowd like most kids would, but they know kind of hid it because I was kind of ashamed of that aspect of myself when I was younger. But I should have embraced it a lot more because it wasn't as strong as a lot of other kids that I would see in the classroom. Like I was, eventually when I kept going to tutoring and kept, hanging out with the right people, I was able to get my grades up and level up, to where I can get into a good high school or a good college. And sometimes it's hard when you're younger to see the big picture or the things that matter in life. What would you say somebody if they're young and they have goals? What could they do to accomplish that?
Well, look within yourself and strive to do the best you can. When I was younger, like you were saying in school, I was born with epilepsy. Okay, so I had to deal with, I could have a seizure at any given point in time just because that was the nature of the disease. But I got picked on a lot of times from a lot of kids in school because I was a little bit slower. I wore horn rimmed glasses that looked like they came from the 60s. So I got picked on a lot, because that was just what my family had. And so I was forced to deal with a lot of mean kids. Let's face it, kids in school sometimes can be really mean. You think social media has a kid all wrapped up now. The verbal abuse you got from kids on the playground was just as harsh sometimes. And so, I went home and I would cry to my mom and dad, hey, these guys are picking on me. And my parents are like, you know what? Find yourself a thicker skin and deal with it. And either don't let it bother you or you fight back. And so, you learn to take care of yourself that way. And yes, I spent plenty of time in the principal's office, but I was taking care of myself because ain't nobody else going to do it out there for you on the playground. You got to stand up for yourself. So find that inner strength and stand up for you.
Yeah. So now back into like the happy moments in your life. What's some of the things that bring you joy in your life? We're going to get to the part about you being married and all that, but just some of the good things that bring you joy from the last time that you was on the show, because it wasn't much conversational joy then.
Finding the job, the people that I work with at my job, I like them a lot. They're really cool people. I've come back in contact with friends of mine that I used to have here. I'm back in my hometown now. And so I've met up with a lot of people that I used to know. And we talk a lot. Been in contact with more of my family members, which that's a plus in itself because, while I was living in Ohio, I didn't really have a lot of communication with my family. So now that I'm back here in town, I talk to them more and we have a little bit better connection. And the woman that I'm with now, she supports me in the decisions that I make. She helps me with things on the website, kind of wording wise, so that it sounds a little more professional than just a flunky doing a website. Um, Her and I have gotten into crafting. We make craft projects now, and we actually have we've created a business for ourselves called DNS Designs Oshkosh, and we go out to craft fairs and we sell our stuff. Back in 2022, no, 23, when we moved, um, she fell taking stuff out to the car, and she broke her right wrist and her left arm at the same time. And so her healing process has, by doing these crafty things, it helps with the dexterity in her hands and gets her mobility back. So it was a good thing for both of us to do, and we enjoy doing it. So I mean, I've learned a lot of new things. Just being able to I do paintings, I do woodworking crafts. I've gotten into something called scorch paint, and you can do wood burning on various projects and things. And so all those different things I'm excited to be involved in. There's so much fun. So
Yeah, it's good stuff that's going to bring you joy, because a lot of men, they always think that they have to have money or car or very, extrinsic things that's going to make them happy in life. But the little things, spending time with your wife, or soon to be wife, or friends and that.
yep. So I
It's
mean,
good.
it's a lot of fun being with her, because we communicate, we talk a lot, we share in the same set of likes. We like going to the same places and doing the same thing, so it kind of just it's a natural thing. And funny thing, we dated 35 years ago, and we went our separate ways back in the early 90s. And the gentleman that put us together 35 years ago will be our officiant in 2 weeks. So
Congratulations.
he'll actually be able to put us together for life this time,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool.
So how did you and your wife meet? If you don't mind sharing.
So back in the late 80s, early 90s, um, my Dawn's cousin um, is her like best friend, and so her best friend and the guy that she's with, that's the guy that introduced them to me. Um, I was working with him at a restaurant here in town. We would go golfing on the weekends when we weren't working, and so he goes, "Hey, I got this nice girl that is looking for a date or whatever, and let's go double and whatever." And so we started seeing each other. We saw each other for a year or so, um, and we just kind of went our separate ways. It didn't really have we had a connection, but it wasn't like it is now. And like I said, she went her separate way. I went my separate way. We each had a failed marriage. And when I came back from Ohio in 22, she's like, "Hey, why don't you come on over for dinner?" And we started talking, and we hit it off from there. And we've been living together since 23. And this Christmas, on Christmas morning, I proposed to her, and she said yes. And we're getting married 2 weeks from today.
That's wonderful, Scott. It's good to have a happy ending.
Yes.
That's something that my audience members was telling me, like, they DM me and they was worried about you last time because they didn't know, what was the update. They didn't know what happened. They didn't know if you found a job and stuff like that. So that's why I wanted to really bring you on to kind of ease their minds a little bit because they was worried about that, especially when you say you wanted to drive your car off the cliff. That was concerning.
Those are some pretty dark times. I remember that.
Yeah. But but I'm happy to know that he's doing well. He's going to be getting married. And I want to, congratulate you for sticking it out because had you done those things to yourself, Scott, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
No.
You wouldn't have a better life now. And that's what I always tell people. I always tell, people, it gets greater later. If you ever heard of that. It really does, because all the stuff that you had to endure, it was really teaching you resilience. And a lot of people don't know that. It was really teaching you to how to overcome problems when you do. Because a lot of times people don't understand you're going to have problems until the day you die, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right? That's not going to go away. You may not have them every day, but you're going to have them occasionally, and you got to figure it out. You have to understand that life is not going to be a cherry on top all the time, right? You're always going to go through things with your partner, with your family, your friends, and you have to learn how to navigate in life. And I'm happy to know that, hopefully, you stay married, and, until the day you die, right? You have coffins next to each other, right?
we decided that this is our last time for both of us. We're not doing this again. We're not doing a marriage again.
Yeah.
This is going to be
dating world sucks.
One and done.
The dating world sucks right now. So
yeah.
She's a keeper, so keep her, right?
Yes, she is.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been nice. It's been nice.
And her 5 brothers will tell you the same thing because, they're like, you hurt her and you're in trouble. I'm like, yeah, not doing that.
Yeah.
You're all bigger than I am.
Yeah, take care of her, Scott. Treat her right because it's hard to find a good woman in life. I've been through a lot of relationships and, very toxic. Some ended up abusive, and I just, pray that I find the right person as well too, that can come into my life and that can, make me happy and feel joy. But happiness and joy does start from yourself and inner joy. That's most important. But as we wrap up this conversation, Scott, because it's been great talking to you, what is 3 pieces of advice that you're going to give to yourself to continue to stay strong in life?
Think positive, pray, and pray some more.
Well, that's very good. And I wish you nothing but the best, Scott. And like I said, we're going to be ending the show next year, so we wanted to just bring on some of our past guests that was previously on here to discuss their life and how they're doing. So now you have it all, audience members. You have it now. People that's watching, he's doing very well in his life, and hopefully he continues to be that way. And I wish you nothing but the best, Scott. Please stay in touch with me. Let me know how things is going. But this will probably be, our last time, on camera.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be ending the show. We're going to be wrapping up next year. So we got a lot more guests that want to come on, that want to do an update, see how life has been for them as well too. But we just wanted to wish you nothing but the best, and hopefully we can stay in touch, and hopefully maybe sometime next year I'm going to get some of the people that was on the show and have a big party to kind of celebrate that our 100th episode is coming up next year. So if I reach back out to you, hopefully maybe you'll be available. Who knows? But
yeah.
I would like for you to come in person and celebrate with us if we can.
I'll do my best.
Okay. All right. Well, Scott, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'll let you go. I know you're a busy person, so please stay in touch and you have a good one.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Take care.